With the final season of Attack on Titan right around the corner, I thought it would be a great idea to do a full recap to help jog everybody's memory, and we're gonna do it in under half an hour. For the sake of simplicity, I'm gonna go in chronological order instead of in the order that information is introduced. This will cover the entire anime with zero manga spoilers, so let's get into it, and don't forget to subscribe. 2,000 years ago, Ymir Fritz let a pig out of its pen, and everything began. Because of this, she was forced into exile, where she fell into a tree and merged with an ancient organism, giving her the power of the Titans. This power was used by King Fritz to develop Eldia, and then Ymir died. Her body would be given to her children, and eventually the 9 Titans would be created. Most importantly, the Founding Titan. The Founding Titan has abilities that can affect every Eldian except for a select few families, such as the Ackermans, which were created for the king's protection. These abilities range from changing their memories to changing their entire immune system. Over the next 2,000 years, Eldians created a prosperous and ideal civilization, or they waged war, killing thousands if not millions. These are the two histories told by Eldia and Marley. During these 2,000 years, the Great Titan War was waged, and by the end of the war, Marley had 7 of the 9 Titans under their control. The 2 they were missing were the Attack Titan and the Founding Titan. By the end of the war, the King of the Walls had lost the will to fight and retreated to an island off the coast of Marley with a number of Eldians. He built a series of walls using hardened Titan skin and left a threat to the world that if anyone tried to harm the island, the colossal Titans in the walls would flatten everyone like a bug. He also removed the memories of all Eldians on the island, making them believe that all of humanity had been wiped out outside of the walls. This was done to prevent them from trying to leave the walls and to prevent people from creating an uprising against the government for the sake of freedom. Meanwhile, outside the walls, Eldians are being punished for their crimes. They are heavily discriminated against for the crimes of their ancestors and are forced to live in a separate area from the rest of the citizens of a city. They are also forced to relearn history from Marley's perspective and even require a pass to leave their designated areas. Fast forward about 40 years and a little girl with no name is taken off the streets and into a cult. She's given the name Ymir and made their ruler. The cult gets exposed and everyone is brought to the island of Paradis and turned into pure Titans. Another 20-ish years pass and Levi Ackerman is born and raised by his uncle Kenny in the underground before joining the Scouts, where his friends immediately die. Our story picks up when Grisha Jaeger takes his sister Faye outside the Eldian intermittent zone to see a blimp. He does not have a pass for him or his sister. They get caught red-handed by a couple of guards. Grisha is beaten and Faye is killed shortly after, but at least he got to see the blimp. This starts Grisha's involvement with the Eldian restorationist movement. After studying to become a doctor, he gets indoctrinated as a member. Shortly after, he meets his soon-to-be wife, Dina Fritz, of the royal family. They have a child, Zeke, and later learn about the Warrior Program, which is a program that allows for Eldians to become honorary Marleyans if they're deemed fit enough to hold one of Marley's Titans. Grisha and Dina force Zeke to join the Warrior Program, and Zeke does not do well with it. He feels immense pressure from the commander and from Grisha, which leads to him finding a new dad in Tom Saver. They play catch and talk like a normal father and son, which is what Zeke really wanted. Zeke later learns that his parents' restorationist cell has been discovered and that he will probably die soon. Tom suggests Zeke turns his parents in to save himself. It works. His parents are sent to the island to become pure Titans, except they don't. Well, Dina does. But Grisha has an encounter with the owl, who is the holder of the Attack Titan. They talk for a while about the past and saving some kids Grisha's never heard of, before Grisha eats the owl and inherits the Attack Titan. He then heads for the walls as the owl tells him to. There, he meets Keith Shadis and promptly steals his girl. They get married and give birth to a son, Eren Yeager. A couple of years pass and Zeke is preparing to inherit the Beast Titan from Tom. Tom and him create a plan to prevent Eldians from reproducing, basically because Zeke hates his life. Around the same time, the next generation of warriors begin their training. At the same time on the island, Eren meets Armin after he gets beat up. Then he meets Mikasa and kills a couple of people casually and gives her a scarf. Mikasa is then adopted into Eren's family. It is also around this time that Ilsa finds a talking Titan, and she records her notes in a notebook before dying. During this same time period, Historia is getting visited by Frida, but her memories are getting wiped every time. She's also getting neglected by her actual parents. Shortly after, in Marley, Peak, Annie, Bertold, Marcel, and Reiner obtain their Titans. Porco will have to wait. They destroy a country in a single night, and Marley decides they will need resources from the island of Paradis, as well as the Founding Titan, because the arms race calls for it. Marley then decides the best course of action is to send 4 12-year-olds to the island to obtain the Founding Titan, or at least finding it and obtaining information on the threat made 100 years ago. The 4 kids settle on the island and things go wrong quickly. Marcel gets eaten by Ymir's pure Titan, and Annie beats up Reiner before before Reiner forces them to continue the mission. Annie transforms to get Bertold and Reiner to the wall safely. Meanwhile, Eren is having a weird dream under a tree. He then fights some military people and then fights some bullies. When he gets home, Grisha is going on a business trip, but when he returns, he will show Eren what is in the basement. The main trio is chilling by some canal when Big Bert appears and breaks down the outer gate to Shiganshina. Eren and Mikasa's house gets caught up in the debris and Eren's mom gets eaten by Dina Fritz right in front of them. Luckily, Armin, Mikasa, and Eren all make it to the boat just in time to see the armored titan destroy the inner gate, giving titans access to the territory between Wall Maria and Wall Rose, cutting off 1/3 of humanity's land. After the fall of the walls, Grisha steals the founding titan from the royal family while being influenced by Eren. He then gives it and the attack titan to Eren in some forest in the middle of nowhere, and he also gives Eren the key to the basement. The main trio then joins the military. Annie, Reiner, and Bertold are now trapped within the walls and decide the best course of action is to join the military. They all arrive at training and unknowingly meet each other, as well as Jean, Sasha, Connie, Ymir, and Historia, plus Mina, Marco, and some others. During training, Keith tries to prevent Eren from passing but fails to do so, and then during a training mission, Ymir and Historia almost die on a mountain, but Ymir secretly transforms to save them. At the end of their training, they're running a mock trial in Trost, when all of a sudden, the colossal titan appears again and breaks down the gate. Chaos ensues as the gate is blown open and titans are coming towards it. Armin has a mental breakdown and Jean is upset that he's not in the military police yet, and Eren is being Eren. He calms down Armin and then they're assigned to the same squad. They head out and immediately Sam gets eaten by a titan. Eren goes berserk, costing his comrades their lives. Armin almost gets eaten, but Eren sacrifices himself to save Armin. Mikasa gets a cart out of a gate, saving a little girl in the process. Before learning of Eren's fate, she kind of loses her will to live and basically tries to die, but can't for some reason. At the last second, she is saved by an abnormal titan. Armin swoops in and saves her, and they use the abnormal titan to get to the main building safely, along with Connie. Every other important character also makes it to the main building thanks to Jean, and they need to refuel, but there are titans in the refuel room. Armin devises a plan to clear out the room, and it works. They get their equipment ready to go and notice the abnormal titan is close to dead. As it dies, Eren pops out of its neck. Mikasa cries and Armin holds his hand. After this, Eren passes out for a while, and when he awakes, Armin tries to save him from this ugly dude. He does so with words. They decide to use Eren to plug the hole created by the colossal titan. Unfortunately, things do not go quite right, and Eren becomes completely useless, knocking himself out. Armin stabs him before talking about the outside world, which seems to work. Around the same time, Marco is being murdered by Annie, Reiner, and Bertold for overhearing a conversation. The hole is plugged and the remaining titans are quickly wiped out by the military and Survey Corps. Trost is saved, but at what cost? After the events of Trost, Jean decides to join the scouts after all. In fact, a number of cadets do. All major characters except Annie are now in the Survey Corps. Eren is put on trial for being a titan again, so Levi beats the shit out of him and takes him to the Survey Corps. Then Eren undergoes some cleaning with Levi and some experiments with Hanji, and he can't transform. He needs a purpose to do so. Around the same time, Hanji's titans are killed by someone, and Erwin asks a strange question. Levi's squad then rallies behind Eren and they prepare for the expedition to retake Wall Maria. The day before the expedition, Annie has to help find a missing girl. The next day, the expedition starts and it doesn't take long for things to go awry. Almost immediately, Annie interrupts the expedition by completely destroying the right flank. She's followed by an army of pure titans. She almost kills Armin, but checks to see if he is Eren or not. After determining it's not him, she moves on. Armin is then approached by Reiner and Jean and they talk about the weird titan. Reiner asks Armin some questions about Eren. The three decide it's a good idea to try to slow down the titan or stop it. Reiner uses this opportunity to deliver information about Eren's location to Annie. Annie changes directions and catches up with Levi's squad in the forest of giant trees. Eren considers changing into a titan but doesn't because of friendship. It works out, kinda. The scouts capture Annie and prepare to dissect her, but she screams and a bunch of pure titans eat her out of her titan. She gets out and disappears. The scouts regroup and start the retreat. Erwin and Armin have the same realization at the same time. Humanity will have to gamble big to win. At the same time, Annie kills a member of Squad Levi and then transforms and kills the rest of the squad. So Eren transforms, which draws Levi and Mikasa to him. He then breaks both his hands and loses to Annie. Annie almost escapes with Eren, but Levi stops her on his own. They head back to Trost and have to drop the bodies of their fallen comrades because of this guy. Upon returning, Eren is handed over to the military police. Armin finds Annie and gets her to help him save Eren. It's actually a ploy to get Annie underground, which doesn't work. After a brief struggle, Annie transforms and buries Armin, Eren, and Mikasa under some rubble. They're fine and Eren transforms. He kind of loses, but then kind of wins. Annie tries to escape by climbing over the wall, but her fingers are cut off by Mikasa, so she seals herself in a crystal instead. After the fight is over, a piece of the wall falls off, revealing a titan inside. One of the priests of the church begs Hanji to cover it up. They do and then threatens to kill him if he doesn't tell them why it's there. Around the same time, Zeke and Peak transform everyone in Rakago into pure titans, including Connie's parents. And within Wall Rose, Reiner, Connie, Bertold, Ymir, and Historia are sitting around doing nothing. But then there's a report that there's a breach in the wall, which is due to Zeke and Peak. Reiner and Bertold are concerned because they know it wasn't them. The scouts split up. Connie takes a few to Rikago to check on his family, Sasha heads north and saves Kaya, and Ymir, Historia, and Nanaba head west towards the wall. Everyone else heads to the wall as well. Mike goes to stop the Titans but dies because of Zeke. Connie arrives at his village and sees no one there, but there's also no blood or carnage. Reiner and the other scouts convince him that everyone must have escaped. Suddenly, the Titan that was Connie's mom says, "Welcome home." They head for the wall as well, where they meet up with Nanaba's squad without finding the breach. They decide to spend the night at Castle Utgard. Meanwhile, the rest of the scouts have been notified of the breach and are on their way. Hanji brings Pastor Nick with them. Armin and Hanji realize at the same time that the walls are made out of hardened Titan skin. This means Eren might be able to plug the hole if he can master hardening. They take a stop in Trust, where the pastor sees the pilgrimage caused by the breach in the walls, and Sasha delivers a note holding the identity of the only person the church will answer to, which is Historia, aka Krista. The scouts depart for Utgard Castle. At the castle, things are not going well. Ymir and Reiner come out to each other, and Reiner accidentally learns that Ymir is from Marley. At the same time, Titans powered by Moonlight and Zeke attack the castle. Reiner almost dies to save everyone from a Titan, but Connie saves him. Bertold reminds him that he is a warrior, not a soldier. The scouts with ODM gear do their best to defend the tower, but they can't do much, and most of them die. And then more Titans come. The scouts inside head to the top of the tower, and the Titans start trying to knock it down. Ymir has to transform to save them. It works for a bit, but she gets overwhelmed and needs to destroy the tower to survive. Right as Bertold is about to transform, she asks everyone to grab onto her. The tower collapses on the Titans, which temporarily slows them down, but they grab Ymir and start to rip her apart. Luckily, the scouts show up just in time to save her. Everyone goes to the walls and talks about Ymir being a Titan. Reiner then casually explains to Eren that he's the armored Titan and Bertold is the Colossal. He asks Eren to go back to Marley with them, and of course, he refuses. Conflict ensues and they transform into their Titans. Bertold grabs Ymir and Reiner grabs Eren. Eren transforms and begins to fight Reiner with some success, until Bertold falls on them. The scouts are blown back by the explosion. Armin and Mikasa are distressed about losing Eren, but Hannes arrives and cheers them up. They eat in a really cringy scene that lasts way too long. Then, the scouts begin their pursuit of the warriors. In a forest not too far away, Reiner has a mental breakdown, and Eren yells at him and tries to transform, but can't. Ymir also almost reveals some information about the outside world. They leave, Ymir makes some threats, then transforms, and takes Historia with them. By the time they get out of the forest, the scouts have caught up, and Reiner transforms. Mikasa almost gets to Bertold, but Reiner protects him, so she goes for Ymir instead. Everyone talks with Bertold while Erwin leads a group of Titans towards Reiner. After the collision, Reiner has to use his hands to defend himself, which gives the scouts the chance to grab Eren, if not for the Titans. It is Armin that distracts Bertold for long enough that Erwin can grab Eren. As soon as he is safe, the scouts start to retreat, but Reiner starts throwing Titans to try to stop them. Things look very bleak for the scouts as they have to fight a multitude of Titans in an open area, and as if that wasn't enough, Dina's Titan shows up. Hannes, Mikasa, and Eren all want to kill it, but it ends up eating Hannes. This causes Eren to have another breakdown. Mikasa basically admits her love for him, which motivates him. He punches her hand, which triggers the power of the founding Titan thanks to her royal blood. He then tells the pure Titans to first devour Dina and then go for Reiner. Because of this, the remaining scouts are able to make a clean getaway. Ymir returns with Reiner and Bertold as there is a future within the walls for Historia. Back in Trost, Hanji correctly theorizes that Titans are actually humans, and Armin and Jean correctly theorize that Eren is the reason the Titans attacked Reiner. An undetermined amount of time passes, and the next squad, Levi, is staying in an isolated cabin to perform experiments on Eren. Pastor Nick is killed by the military police after being tortured. The police then raid the cabin that the squad is staying in, but they leave just in time. A freeze on all scout activity is issued by the government. They arrest Erwin and are requiring the scouts to hand over Historia and Eren. The squad heads to Trost in an attempt to lure out the people after Eren and Historia. It works. Armin and Jean are used as decoys, and the scouts are able to capture the amateur abductors. Unfortunately, Kenny Ackerman is back, and he chases Levi through the city, and his squad successfully steals the real Eren and Historia. Levi manages to escape the anti-personalist squad and needs a message for his squad. They won't just be fighting Titans anymore, they will have to kill real people. Mikasa is okay with this. Jean is not, and it almost costs him his life, but Armin kills the person threatening him. The anti-personalist squad gets away with Eren and Historia shortly after. Meanwhile, Erwin talks with Niall about the future of humanity and who he should trust. Armin has a breakdown over killing a person, and Levi gives him some great words of advice. He then interrogates their captive, who is the owner of the cart from the Battle of Trost, and the owner of Reeves Company, a large employer within Trost. He's willing to trade information for the safety and longevity of Trost. Hanji tells Erwin that if they don't save Eren soon, he will probably get eaten. Levi kidnaps some of the military police and tortures them with Hanji. One of them, Sanis, gets tricked into giving more information, such as Lord Reese being the true ruler of the walls, and Historia being the true heir to the throne. Then Old Man Reeves is killed by Kenny. Rod recovers Historia and has Eren as well. He explains to Historia that she is the true heir. Meanwhile, Hanji tells tells everyone about the information they have obtained about the transfer of the power of the Titans. They head for the Reese land and Hanji heads to Erwin. Pixis talks to Erwin about his plans for a coup and about his childhood. Erwin is then framed for murder and tells Hanji they are the next commander of the Scouts. Then all available Scouts are arrested. Erwin promises to avenge Mr. Reeves, and the military police hand out flyers for the arrest of Squad Levi. The squad captures 2 members of the military police, Hitch and Marlowe. Niall meets with the press and Flegel is saved from the military police by Hanji. They talk for a while before Hanji loops him into the coup. Levi's squad takes the military police uniforms from Hitch and Marlowe. They then talk about Annie, and Marlowe asks to help the squad. Levi says no, and then later yes after Jean tests them. Flegel is used to reveal the truth about his father's death to the people of Trost. This builds their trust in him and the Scouts. Hanji talks to the press as well. Levi does more interrogation and learns his last name. Erwin gets an audience with the king, where he explains the possibility of a civil war and argues over Eren. Erwin is sentenced to death, but Walrose is supposedly breached. The breach is not real. It's an attempt to get the royal government to show their true colors, and it works. Zachary and Pixis overthrow the king, and humanity has begun down a new path. The name of the Scouts have been cleared, and they move to save Eren and Historia. Eren is chained up in a cavern of iceburn crystal. He and Historia learn about Frida, and Eren learns how his father stole the founding titan by killing the entire Reese family. Rod and Historia are preparing to eat Eren, and Zachary is... Anyway, the Scouts arrive at the chapel, and they devise a plan to save Eren before starting their assault under a cloud of smoke. Jean kills a guy, then Connie kills a guy, then Sasha kills a girl. Levi, Mikasa, and Hanji also destroy most of the squad. Kenny and Levi fight for a while, and Hanji is injured. The anti-personnel squad retreats behind a net, and the Scouts have no choice but to wait. Rod explains that Frida is not entirely dead and lives on inside Eren. He also reveals that the power of the founder can only be used by the royal family. Historia wants to eat Eren to save humanity, but Kenny interrupts and explains that Rod is selfish for not doing it himself, but she doesn't really care. Meanwhile, Eren is being emo and wants to be eaten. Historia asks why the Reese family never freed humanity before. Rod explains that it's because of the vow made 100 years ago. She decides not to eat Eren and goes to free him instead, and Rod transforms into this monstrosity. It starts a cave-in, which actually creates an opening for the Scouts to get to Eren. He eats a bottle labeled armor and learns how to use Titan hardening, which he uses to save the Scouts. They leave the cave and head to Orvund to stop Rod's Titan. After Eren is done being cringe, Rod's Titan is defeated at the hand of Historia. She uses this opportunity to let the people know that she is the new ruler of the walls. Kenny dies and gives a single shot of spinal Titan fluid to Levi. Then Historia punches Levi at her coronation. Meanwhile, Reiner loses the fight to Zeke, and it's determined that Eren should be the priority over Annie. The ongoing coup leads to a purge of the military, and many from the garrison and military police join the Scouts, including Marlowe and Flock. The executioner from Hell is built in Trost. The Scouts go to talk to Shadis about Grisha. They then prepare to retake Wall Maria, and Levi is entrusted with the Titan shot. Eren, Armin, and Mikasa talk about the sea, as well as what comes after reclaiming Wall Maria. And finally, it's time. The Scouts depart for the wall at night. Eren is nervous, and Armin confides that he is also nervous, which makes Eren less nervous. At the wall, Armin notices some suspicious ashes and gets permission to investigate. At the same time, Eren seals the outer wall. There is no sign of Reiner or Bertold. Armin reports back that someone has been there recently and must be in hiding. He believes they are in the wall. Erwin trusts him, and the mission is put on pause until the search is complete. They find Reiner, and Levi almost kills him, but he transforms. At the same time, Zeke, Peak, and an army of pure Titans appear on the other side of the wall. Zeke makes the small ones run into the town, and he then blocks the horses into Shiganshina with a boulder. The Scouts are now surrounded. Erwin determines this will most likely be a war of attrition. Reiner starts climbing the wall, but then turns his attention to Eren, who seems to be running away. They fight for a bit, but Reiner is beaten by thunder spears. After being blown up, he utters a scream that is a signal for Bertold to transform. Zeke throws Bert over the wall, but Bertold sees Reiner's condition and doesn't transform at first. Armin tries to talk him out of transforming, but it doesn't work. Ultimately, Bertold transforms and kills most of Hanji's squad. On the other side, Zeke begins to throw boulders to destroy the houses and kill Scouts from a distance. Armin can't figure out a way to beat Bertold, so he hands control over to Jean. But Jean's plan doesn't really work either, and he gets Eren thrown on top of a wall. Not too long after, Reiner has healed enough to move again. Armin finally comes up with a plan to stop Bertold, and Erwin comes up with a plan to kill Zeke. Levi uses the Arc of Titans to get close to Zeke while Erwin and the Scouts charge Zeke head on. Armin talks to Eren about his plan. He then lies to Eren, telling him that he will have to get out of there if Eren takes too long. But Armin is actually committed to dying if it means humanity winning, and he does. Levi easily defeats Zeke, and the remaining Scouts inside the wall defeat Reiner with the help of Hanji. And finally, Eren rips Bertold out of the Colossal. They have won on all fronts. Unfortunately, Peak steals Zeke before Levi can do anything with him. Levi chases them to the wall, where he finds Zeke talking to Eren. Zeke is able to get Reiner, and then they escape on Peak. Armin is looking like burnt toast and needs the serum to survive. Levi is about to give it to him until Flock shows up with a barely breathing Erwin. Everyone goes crazy. Mikasa almost takes the serum from Levi, but Hanji stops her. Eren talks about the sea, and in the end, Levi forces everyone to leave. He's going to choose Erwin, until Erwin refuses. So he brings back Armin. After this, Levi, Hanji, Eren, and Mikasa go to Eren's house. They finally find the truth of the outside world in the basement. Eren is then imprisoned for insubordination. He tells Armin about the curse of Ymir and how they will die 13 years after inheriting their titans. There are then talks about what the next step is and how to tell the public about the revelation that they are not the last of humanity. After this, there's a ceremony where Floch tells Armin he shouldn't be alive, and Eren sees more memories of Grisha. In just 4 months, all of the titans are removed from the island, so the scouts take a trip to the beach. Armin finds a seashell, and everyone is enjoying it, except Eren, who points out that their freedom is extremely fragile. Because of the loss of the warriors at Wall Maria, Marley is forced into a war with the Mid-Eastern allies. Over the next 4 years, Paradis attempts to catch up with the outside world technologically. They're introduced to many new people and cultures, as well as some potential allies, mostly Hizuru and Zeke's followers. They capture any scout ship that comes into their area. This bolsters their numbers for volunteers and prisoners of war. Eren, Mikasa, and Armin talk about if the rumbling is the best option. They need more time to convince the world they're not evil. Armin starts talking to Annie on a regular basis, and Zeke has a plan to help the island. He wants to use a partial rumbling as a deterrent and use the extra time to catch the island up to speed. He will also need a person of royal blood to inherit the Beast Titan and constantly bear children for the next 13 years. This would most likely be Historia. This plan does not sit well with Eren or anyone else on the island. They instead devise a plan to take Zeke to the island and damage Marley's military at the same time. During this time period, the scouts take a trip to Marley, where they see hatred for them is still quite strong. Mikasa also finally confesses her feelings for Eren. Oh wait, sorry, she actually tells him he's family. Not long after, Marley wins their war with the Mid-Eastern allies. Porco, Peak, Reiner, Zeke, Falco, Gabi, Udo, and Zofia all make it home safe, but the brass are concerned about the power of the Titans becoming obsolete. Zeke proposes they retrieve the founding Titan and use its power to stave off attacks from Marley until they can catch up with more traditional military gear. They think the Tiber family will be the best people to declare war on Paradis, and they put on a festival in preparation for Willie Tiber's play. The whole time, Eren has been using Falco to send letters to his comrades detailing his plan. The festival begins, and shortly after, the play begins as well. The warriors are immediately split up, and Peak and Porco are trapped in a hole, while Zeke is supposedly distracted away from the audience. At the same time, Reiner is having a conversation with Eren and asks Eren to kill him. Eren refuses, saying they are the same before transforming, burying Reiner and Falco in rubble. Chaos breaks out as Eren rampages through the audience, killing innocent people and Marley leaders indiscriminately. Udo and Zofia are killed in the chaos. Laura Tiber transforms into the Warhammer Titan, but Eren gets to her first and beats her up before he gets skewered by a giant spike. He unskewers himself but is quickly decapitated. Luckily, Mikasa and the rest of the scouts save him. Floch wants to kill innocent people, but Jean doesn't. At the same time, Peak and Porco escape from the hole, and Mikasa fights the Warhammer on her own. Eren finds Laura's pod and pulls the plug on her. He's about to eat her, but Porco interrupts him, and then Levi interrupts him. Meanwhile, Gabi's trying to get to safety when Sasha kills the gate guards. Porco almost dies at the hands of the scouts, but Peak saves him at the last second. Soon after, Zeke arrives in the plaza as well, and Reiner and Falco pop out of the rubble too. Eren gets trapped in a tree for a bit, but transforms again to free himself. It's an all-out battle in the square until it comes to a standstill. That is, until Armin transforms in the harbor, destroying the port and most of Marley's military, along with a large number of civilians. He then joins Hanji and Onya Capone on the airship. The explosion sets off Porco when he goes to attack Eren. At the same time, Levi quickly takes down Zeke, and Jean and Sasha take down Peak as well. Porco tries to cut up Eren, but he hits the crystal instead. This gives Eren an idea. Things relax for a second until the airship approaches again, which makes Porco angry again, which leads to him becoming a dismembered nutcracker. Eren now holds the Warhammer Titan. Gabi and Falco yell for Reiner so that Porco doesn't get eaten as well. It kind of works, but Reiner loses energy very quickly. The scouts make their escape on the airship. Eren, Mikasa, and Armin are reunited for the first time in months, but it isn't a happy reunion. As they're leaving, Gabi kills Labov, and then boards the ship with Falco and kills Sasha. The airship returns to the island with Falco, Zeke, and Gabi on it. Zeke is then taken to the forest of giant trees, and Eren is imprisoned along with Gabi and Falco, and the volunteers are also imprisoned. Eren fights with Hanji, and reveals he now has the Warhammer Titan. The majority of the scouts and Niccolo go to Sasha's funeral. He offers her family a meal at his restaurant on the house. At the same time, Gabi and Falco escape their cell. Gabi is still brainwashed, but Falco can see through Marley's lies. They run until they find a family to stay with, which happens to be Sasha's. Meanwhile, the people of Paradis are growing untrusting of the military and their decisions, as information about Eren's imprisonment has been leaked to the public by Floch. He is then imprisoned until their trial. Gabi and Falco are struggling with life on the farm, and Gabi gets in a fight with Kaya about Eldian history and if the current generation should pay for the sins of the past. Around this time, Marley confirms Zeke is a traitor, and Reiner suggests they invade now instead of waiting 6 months. Armin gets in trouble for touching Annie's crystal, and there are protests going on outside the military capital. Yelena tells Pixis she met with Eren in secret, and the rest of the volunteers had no idea. Armin and Mikasa meet with Zachary and try to convince him to let them see Eren. He says no, and then he gets blown up right after the meeting. The protest loves it. Eren escapes the prison with Floch and his supporters, now labeled Jaegerists. Armin and Mikasa just want to talk to Eren as they don't understand what he's doing. Pixis is then appointed as the new military leader, and Sasha's family with Gabi Gabby and Falco go to Nicolo's restaurant for their meal. Coincidentally, the scouts are also headed there to talk to Nicolo about Yelena. On the way, we see Pieck is now on the island. Jean almost drinks some wine, but Nicolo yells at him to stop. He then goes to the wine cellar where he runs into Gabby and Falco. Gabby proudly tells him that she killed Sasha. He gets mad and tries to hit her with the bottle, but Falco gets in the way. Nicolo then brings Gabby and Falco back out and asks Mr. Brus to kill her or he'll kill Falco. Mr. Brus de-escalates the situation with the help of the scouts. Nicolo reveals that the wine contains Zeke's spinal fluid and it got in Falco's mouth. Armin and Mikasa take Gabby to the next room over. She thinks they're gonna kill her, but they're not gonna do that. And then Eren shows up. He calls Mikasa a slave and then beats the shit out of Armin. Back in the forest, Zeke decides it's a good time to try and escape to meet Eren. He yells, transforming everyone except Levi into pure titans. He doesn't think Levi will survive this time, but he does. Zeke then gets dissected by Levi for a second time. He then ties a thunder spear to Zeke so he can't move or he'll blow up. Zeke determines it's best to blow up, so they do. Meanwhile, in Shiganshina, the scouts have been imprisoned by Eren and the volunteers. Yelena then tells them Zeke's true plan for euthanasia, and around the same time, Pieck talks to Eren and Gabby. She somewhat convinces Eren that she is a traitor to Marley, and to prove it, she will point out her allies. They head upstairs past Porco onto the roof, where they then try to use the jaw to eat Eren. It doesn't work, and he transforms. At the same time, Hanji finds Levi by a river, and they dive in to escape. Then Zeke goes to the paths for a bit to heal, before heading to Shiganshina with Flock. With perfect timing, Marley's forces descend on the city. Reiner and Eren go at it again, and Pieck returns to Magath with Gabby. They tell Magath the situation, and Eren is winning against Reiner and Porco, until Magath lands an anti-Titan shot on him. At the same time, Marley's forces attack the Jaegerists defending Eren. The struggle continues for a while, and it looks like Eren and the Jaegerists are about to lose, until Zeke shows up. The tides suddenly shift, and Eren starts to approach Zeke. At the same time, the rest of the protagonists are freed, and they join the fray. Zeke gets hit by a sneak attack and falls from the wall, while Eren and Reiner tussle, resulting in Porco almost dying. This whole time, Falco has been on a mission for safety, but it's cut short because Zeke screams. Chaos breaks out. Falco eats Porco, and Eren gets decapitated. Luckily, Zeke catches his head, and shortly after they take a trip down memory lane because Zeke thinks Eren is brainwashed. He's not, and it turns out Eren has actually been manipulating Grisha for a long time. Grisha also regrets his treatment of Zeke and apologizes because things will only go Eren's way from here on out. They're shot back to the paths, and Zeke tries to convince Ymir to move forward with the euthanasia plan, but it doesn't work because Eren is literally him. Eren catches up to Ymir and is like, yo, let's rumble. And they do. The rumbling starts, and it's the full rumbling, not a partial one. This confuses Armin until Eren sends a message to every Eldian telling them what he's doing. This causes panic in Liberio and causes Reiner to take a nap. The squad makes a plan, but Connie needs his moment, so he defects with Falco. Everyone who's left works together to kill the pure titans, then Gabby begs Armin to save Falco. Oh, and Annie is back. Conflict is brewing on the island among Eren's supporters and civilians. H is involved and accidentally finds Annie. They tussle, join together, and catch up on the last 4 years. The Eldians in Liberio start a rebellion, and Armin yells at Mikasa in a moment of weakness. He departs with Gabby after she makes up with Sasha's family, and Flock kills a guy for no reason. Jean decides to join him. Kanye and Falco approach Rikago, and Pieck and Magath meet Hanji and Zeke. The rumbling continues through the night, and Mikasa and Jean meet with Hanji to discuss what to do next. They decide to stop the rumbling. Kanye and Falco arrive in Rikago, and Kanye asks Falco to help him brush his mom's teeth. Right before they start, Armin tries to sacrifice himself, forcing Kanye to save him, which also saves Falco. They have a heart-to-heart, then get some food, and happen to run into Annie. They depart together, and Jean almost kills Onion Capone, but it's just a signal for Pieck to rescue them and Yelena. It's also a signal for the other group to depart as well, but someone watches them leave. They pick up Reiner, and it's time to save the world. Kinda cringe delivery, but let Connie have his moment. They gather around the campfire and sing their campfire song, and by that I mean they get into a massive fight and beat the shit out of Reiner again. The next morning, Jean apologizes to Gabby for hurting her, and they depart for the port. Unfortunately, on arrival they discover that it is overrun with Jaegerists. Hanji also notices that the rumbling is moving faster than they expected, so they will need to make big moves now. They need to go for the plane. Magath has a moment of realization and apologizes to everyone for being racist. Then Armin and Connie head to the port and try to raise up Flock, but it doesn't really work and all hell breaks loose. Armin and Connie head to the boat, and Flock tries to kill Kiyomi, but she kind of bodies him. She almost dies, but Mikasa saves her. Flock alerts the Jaegerists of the attack, and Armin gets shot. Magath and Jean rescue Kiyomi and Mikasa, and then hide in the basement, allowing Annie and Reiner to do their thing. Connie is forced to kill Sam and Daz, and the Alliance learns that it will take almost a day to get the plane ready to fly. They decide to take it to Odiha and do repairs there. Hanji, Mikasa, and Magath join the fight, and the convoy of mechanics costs Annie her arm. The Titans are taking too much damage, and Falco runs off on his own. The mechanics get to the ship along with Armin as Connie also joins the fray. A train of reinforcements appears around the corner, but it gets blown up before it can arrive. But there's no time for celebration as Annie and Reiner are about to die, until Connie comes to their rescue, as do Hanji, Mikasa, and Jean seconds later. Pieck also gets involved, and finally, Falco transforms. Magath leaves Gabby in charge of the ship and rushes to Falco. He rampages, almost killing Flock, but Flock gets away and almost destroys the ship, if not for Phase Gabby. Mikasa finishes off the straggling Jaegerists, and Magath calms down Falco with some help from Pieck. Everyone boards the ship except Magath, who goes off to destroy the other ship. He meets Keith, and they sacrifice sacrifice themselves to destroy the ship. Shortly after, the Global Alliance faces off with the Rumbling. There really isn't much they can do despite all of their power. They get fried, and the Rumbling hits land. If you made it all the way to the end, please consider subscribing. I am going to do some breakdowns of the final season, so if you're hyped for Attack on Titan, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching, it really does mean a lot to me, and I'll see you again in another week for another video.